And tonight, as part of the Agile in Color team, I have Dina and I have Matt. They have their Agile in Color backgrounds there. They'll be helping me out, monitoring the chat for questions and live tweeting and live sharing the experience live with our folks and followers online. For those who don't know about Agile in Color, it came into being actually last year as a offshoot of the Agile Alliance Growing Racial Equity series, open space series. And a group of us came together out of that and formed this group Agile in Color, which is our mission is to provide mentoring, coaching, and learning opportunities for Black Agilists and thought leaders to increase visibility and create growth opportunities. So that's what we try to do. And so tonight, we are going to get to hear about one of those stories from one of my friends, and actually one of the very first Black Agilists that I saw speak at a conference, Brandon Rains. So I am not going to introduce him. He's many things, a man of many talents. I would like for Brandon to start off and introduce yourself the way you'd like to our folks here at our meetup today.
Thanks, Nicole. And that was really, really sweet of you to say all of that. It was really nice. Thank you. And thank you all in the Agile in Color world for having me here. This is really cool. I'm really, really honored to talk. I think anytime somebody asks you to talk and share your story, it's a really special thing. So thank you all for doing that. So who am I? So I'm a dad. I'm a new husband, and I love technology. I think I am a geek through and through and through and through. I can talk about sci-fi all day long and tomorrow too. And in the Agile space, I've been coaching for about 14 years now. And my background is I'm a software engineer. I still call myself that, though I haven't written a lick of code in about 5-6 years or so, which makes me sad sometimes. And I've enjoyed the world of technology and software development, and I really, really enjoy working with teams. I really enjoy working with organizations and love seeing them grow and face their challenges and do it together and feel happy about it, happy and fulfilled about it. So I don't know what else to say.
He's an enterprise coach, a plethora of certifications, world renowned for sure. But I really am just really happy to have you here because, when Agile in Color came to be, it was one of those places where we found each other when we didn't know we were all out there doing the same kinds of things. And so this is just a great forum to kind of uplift us and to show the different things that we're doing in this space. So again, thank you for being here tonight. So let's go back to like origin stories and just tell us about where you grew up as a kid.
See, Nicole knows me well because she knows geek, and I love origin stories from comic book stuff. So where did I grow up? I grew up in Richmond, Virginia. So it was a special place for me. I still love Richmond. I still have family there. I still go back there to visit. It was a great place to grow up. It was where I discovered a lot of my technology roots because I was really, really fortunate to have I thought a really, really good education all throughout high school. Um, so yeah, it's still home.
Which part of Richmond? Because I lived there for a little while.
I grew up in South side
Okay.
of Richmond. Yeah.
Like Chesterfield,
No,
Chester.
I was actually in the city of Richmond.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you know Midlothian Turnpike, I was
Hmm.
like a little bit off of the Midlothian Turnpike.
Okay.
But yeah, actually, an actual Richmond boy.
Wow. Amazing. Um, and so how did you get started in IT? What really sparked your interest?
I think I think there were a couple of things, right? So I was a little brother, and my big brother, we grew up in a pretty small house, which meant that whatever he was watching, I watched, and at least some portion of the time, he was really into Star Trek, the original series, Captain Kirk,
Mm.
Mr. Spock, and I watched that, and it was something really special about watching Star Trek, and just there was technology, but there was humanity, and it was like this beautiful bond of the two, and I'm like, that seems cool. I like that kind of stuff. And then, probably showing my age, but there was a show called MacGyver that was
Hmm.
happening in probably like the late '80s or something like that, and it was this guy who
Probably
was
late
always.
80s. Yeah, I
Yeah, I think
remember the
so, right?
mullet. So yeah.
He had the mullet going on. So yeah, yes. Yeah, and there was this dude running around like building stuff out of, you know, wire and duct tape and
Paper clips.
paper clips and
Yeah.
gum and
And a sock,
yeah,
probably.
yeah. And I'm like, how does he do this? This is awesome. I want to be able to do that. And so it was like, this is cool. And it was like, oh, so there's this stuff called engineering. And so, there was that. And then again, like growing up in Richmond, we had these really cool opportunities in middle school. We had these summer programs that I remember my mom getting me into. And this is like middle school. So sixth, seventh, eighth grade, at least for us down in Richmond. And one summer, during one of the programs, we had these Apple IIs. And we had a great teacher who showed us how to program in BASIC. And I'm typing in stuff, didn't really know what I was typing in. But after I typed in what he told me to type in, really awesome stuff came up on the screen and my mind was blown. And I'm like, I want to know more about this. I want to do this. And so it just kind of continued. And most of the rest of middle school, high school, it was, just trying to rediscover those things. And I got really, really lucky in that even in high school, I was able to do these internships. Like I did one with the city of Richmond in the engineering department. And, because I was still into computers and technology and engineering, I got afforded these really cool internships and, was able to write applications then, dinky stuff, right? Like MS Access or, nothing seriously hardcore, but it continued my interest and it gave me a foundation. And so it just kind of continued to snowball from there. And it was like, this is cool. I love this,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's awesome. I was like, oh, don't worry, I'm showing my age too. I remember BASIC very well.
Yeah.
Like, whoa. Okay.
Yeah. And I remember after that, I like begged my parents to get me an Apple. And, well, they're still very expensive, but we certainly could not afford that, at that point in time. But my dad, he surprised me. He brought home a Commodore 128, and it was like the best thing for me. It was yeah, it was another one of those just world changing things for me. So I was able to do stuff at home. That was
Yeah.
way more affordable for us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's great. Before I go on with more questions, I just wanted to pause here and say, if you do have a question you want to ask Brandon, we want to intermingle and make this interactive. So Matt will let me know if we have any questions, and then we can just kind of pop you into the conversation. Okay, just putting that out there. All right. All right. So switching gears. And getting more into current times, what is it about Agile coaching that you find the most rewarding?
It took me a long time to figure that out. And I think I'm still figuring out, but I think the one thread is there's still this idea of working with a team or working with an organization and seeing them have different pain points and challenges, and me working with them and doing what I can to help them reveal a whole lot of what's going on, maybe have allow for a different perspective, different look, throw in a couple of ideas here and there. And maybe they resonate, maybe they don't, but it gets them to kind of think, the group to think. And then ultimately, the hope is, I always keep my fingers crossed for this, is that they get to a better place. And seeing them feel good about what they're doing, what they're building, and the impact that they make on whatever that product is or whatever that effort is, and seeing them feel good about coming into work every single day, and going home feeling happy.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing that I really, really enjoy when it happens.
Awesome. So what would you say has been one of your biggest challenges on your Agile journey so far?
I think it's probably still a challenge for me. So since I have this background of being a software engineer and solving problems, and being really focused in on the implementation and how, and this is the way to do it, I think making that transition, still transitioning into coaching and making that a real partnership with the team, organization, what system, whatever it is that I'm working with, or even individual, and truly making it a partnership and kind of letting go. I think that still continues to be a challenge, and for me to check myself when that's happening, and to reroute, and to understand when there are times when there are ideas, there are opinions, and being gentle and empathetic with those things too. I think that continues to be a challenge. And it's funny, as I talk to other coaches who have way more experience than me, that oftentimes they will say the same thing. I constantly get surprised about that. But yeah, it is a struggle for lots of folks, or something to be aware of,
Right.
at the very least.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just ripping off like challenges here, but so you don't have to name your most challenging client, but whatever the environment, what made them challenging to work with, and how did you handle that?
I think that the teams or organizations that are most challenging is when there is a lot of toxicity within the organization. So that's rough. It's rough to come into work every day and feel like the situation is so toxic that you go home and feel terrible every single day, and that you see and feel the tension that's in the room and amongst the group. I think those tend to be a lot more challenging. And I think oftentimes my reactions are, "Oof, this is rough, y'all, right? Do y'all feel this too? Is it just me?"
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think particularly when it becomes very personal, I think of the work that people do everything. I tend to think that particularly the ones who are really good, it is personal, because you want to come into work to do a really good job every single day. That's a very personal thing. And I think when the like criticism and all kinds of just toxic behavior, shoots right to you as the person instead of the problem, that becomes really rough. And to kind of sort through that and help groups kind of sort through that it's not the person who's, the issue, that it's the problem out there, or the environment that's been created. And, it's kind of pushing individuals into that toxic behavior and trying to separate those things. I think those can be really rough, because sometimes they're really deep rooted. Sometimes it's part of the culture, and that's a lot to unravel.
Right. You start pulling the string and you're like, oh, this is where this is going. Okay.
Yeah. And I think another layer of that, at least for me in those kind of situations, is for me not to get into that too, and carry that home with me. And so just being able to, okay, the workday is over, to be able to kind of let go. That is a challenge for me, because I tend to choose clients who I like working with and getting pretty deep with, and tend to stay with for a pretty good amount of time. And so because of that, I have to be really, really aware of what I carry home with me, and how it affects me, so that I can show up really, really well every single day until that particular engagement is done.
Okay. Matt, you have questions from folks?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, we do have 2 questions in chat. The first one we could start with is, how did you get into coaching?
Not easily. In fact, I resisted it for a really long time. So, like I said, I'm a software engineer, like through and through, right? Told you the whole story is that's where I started as a kid. And so I was working at one point. This is right, maybe a couple of years out of college. I met one of my dearest and best friends, who's also my mentor, and he was starting a company, and we were working like in the basement. Like I'd go home, we'd work in the basement every single night, and I'd learned about not only more object-oriented development, but agility. Like at that point, like he had learned a lot about extreme programming. And so in the basement, we were practicing that stuff. And I'm like, this is cool. I'm not doing any of this stuff at work, in my 9 to 5. Like, I want more of that.
Right.
And so what happened is that, more and more as when I was going to my 9 to 5 and getting paid, I started to have these kind of conversations with my fellow teammates. And we started using a lot of it, and it seemed to work. And they were like, "Oh, this is cool." I'm like, "Yeah, this is really cool, right?" And at one point in time, it just became the way that we were working. So I was going home in the basement and doing it. I was coming to work and doing it. This is fantastic. And then at one point, a couple of folks out in leadership at one of the clients got wind of it, and wind of what we were doing on this particular team, and that we were doing really, really well. And they heard we were doing this agile stuff, and she pulled me aside one day and said, "Hey, why don't you come coach?" And I'm like, "I don't even know what you're talking about. Coach what?" You know, so like I play sports, but I don't know what this coaching stuff is. And I told her, "No, I'm a software developer. Leave me alone." And after a while, a couple of people told me I was crazy and that I should do it. And I'm like, "Yeah, okay. I still don't know what that means, but I mean, if somebody else wants to hear some of the stories and how the techniques that we were doing, then I'm happy to share that." And so that was back in 2007. And you know, and even there were years after that that I was still going home, going in the basement, writing code, doing a lot of techniques. But eventually, it became the full-time thing.
Wow. So you were like pushed into it. It's like,
Oh yeah,
you do it.
oh yeah, yeah, totally. And I mean, it took me a while to really understand what coaching was. I still think I'm trying to figure it out. But yeah.
Awesome. I'll take another question from
Yeah,
the crowd.
The first question came from Crystal, so thank you, Crystal. And the next question is from, I hope I get this right, Maru. And the question, how do you position and explain the value add of coaching so you can get to actually do agile coaching versus doing consulting work for clients who want to be told what to do?
Well, y'all have great questions. Y'all are pushing me today. I think so. Yeah, I would say at least for the agile coaching clients that I have a very small amount of like relationship coaching clients. So for them, that's an easy conversation. For agile coaching clients, usually that conversation comes around when pretty early on when we're like assessing each other, I should say. And usually in the conversations or questions where I tend to ask, how do you all get along with each other? And I get various answers, but particularly when the answer is sometimes we get along or sometimes not, or I've never been asked that question before. That's usually my entry to talk about coaching, and at least at this point in my career, to talk about how important it is to have a good relationship amongst the team and teams and organization, and how that is just as important, if not more important, than all of the agile mechanics. And some people see that immediately. Some clients see that immediately and go, "Yeah, we need that. That makes a lot of sense." And it allows me to have the conversation about some of those kind of activities and path to talk. And it gives me passport to bring that to the table. Mm-hmm. And some are like, "Yeah, we're good. We don't really need that, but we still want the mechanic stuff. We still want you to teach us agile." And I said, "Okay, I still would love to, at least point out some of these relationship things that may come up." And 9 times out of 10, folks will say, "Hey, I remember you talking to us about this idea of how we work together. I see those things now." And so let's revisit that conversation. Right. Yeah. I really hope I answered your questions.
All right. I'm going to go back to a couple of questions I have, and then I'll come back out to folks in the crowd's questions. So what professional advice would you give up and coming Black Agilists?
Yeah, this question always scares me. I think for me, I've been really fortunate in that I've been able to try a lot of stuff, and folks have been really patient with me to try those things and fail and pick myself up again and them along with me and try again or try something different. And some of that, I think, is, I hope, how I've built relationships with folks. And I guess the advice that I would say is try stuff and be okay with it not working out and try something else. And then go ask and talk to folks. And I think the other thing is I've had really awesome mentors in my life. And people have been really, and still are really, really good to me. And so if you find that person or persons, grab on, listen to them, bounce stuff off of them, and then do the same thing for somebody else.
Right. Reach back and bring them along with you.
Yeah.
All right. So how do you think tech companies can create equity for Black and people of color Agilists to accelerate their career path?
So I'm sure you all know there's no perfect answer to this. What I would hope that folks would do out in the corporate space is to look around and see what's out there, like within your own space, to just and be more self-aware of who's there, what they're bringing, and what you're missing as a result of that. And then once you establish that, then go out and find it, right? Don't expect it to come to you. And then if you can't find it, then go build it. So there's lots of organizations that you can partner with. Agile In Color would be a fantastic place, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. I am an HBCU grad. I graduated from Morehouse, and there's a tremendous amount of talent at Morehouse and the surrounding area, Spelman and Clark and Morris Brown. Glad to see Morris Brown back. And then lots of other fantastic HBCUs and non-HBCUs that has tremendous amounts of talent out there. And so if it's not there, go build it. Go say, hey, I want to invest in your computer science department, and start building. Like I know for me, again, I feel very, very fortunate. Like I didn't struggle at all finding a job as a computer science grad coming out of Morehouse. And Morehouse, it was a two-way street as I understand it. Morehouse did an amazing job of reaching out to the corporate world and saying, we got some talent here. And the corporate world reached out to Morehouse and understood there's talent there. And that can't be the only place that it's happening. There's lots and lots and lots and lots of Morehouses out in the world, and out in this country. So do the work. Yeah.
Awesome. All right, I'm going to tap in with Matt to see if we have more questions from the crowd.
Yeah, we definitely do. The next question is from Alexandria. What advice do you have for an individual who is transitioning into Agile from a different profession, for example, teaching?
Thanks, Alexandria, for the question. So I think the biggest thing is don't lose anything that you are bringing to the table from being a teacher. I'm a big believer in bring your whole self to whatever the job is that you're trying to do. You never know when it's going to make an impact. And oh my gosh, I can probably think about 10 things that you probably have done as a teacher that you can bring into the Agile world. And one is teacher, I think, and I'm sure you are are this, is that teachers have an amazing ability to connect with people. I teachers are special people to me. And so I think being a good coach, being a good scrum master, being a good human being is about connecting to people and hearing them and allowing them to be heard. So I really hope that you continue to bring that to the Agile world, because it needs it a whole lot.
Mhm.
So bring that stuff. We need it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for that. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Agreed. Because, I know a lot of people in the Agile space who have very diverse backgrounds, who didn't do, IT in school or anything like that. And there's always something that you've probably done before that works in this space. So I would wholeheartedly agree on that.
Yeah. I think at the conference, at one of the Agile conferences, I think it was Agile something 4 or 5 years ago, I went to a session by someone who was a former actor. And I went to it because I read a book called Making Movies by Sidney Lumet. He's like one of my favorite directors. And I read this book and I'm like, this is very Agile. This is very cool. And I went to his session because I wanted to hear from somebody who did it. And I'm like, he brought all kinds of really cool stuff that's incredibly applicable to the world that we work in terms of building really creative stuff. And it was amazing, the parallels that I saw. So I think it's just another one of those examples of bring everything you got from wherever you came from and see where the patterns are, see where they apply.
Cool. Thank you. Matt, do you have any other questions?
Yeah, we got two more. Chris had a question. What's your take on the different Agile certifications? It feels like Agile wars when deciding on the right certification.
My take on certifications, I will just tell you all my experience. I know I have a few, and I will tell you that every single one of the certifications that I have was usually about me learning more, or me doing a self-check of where I was. So I remember particularly when I applied to be a CEC, that I had been doing coaching for a while, and I told you all I had no idea what that really meant. And I didn't really, and I have found myself oftentimes not working with a ton of other coaches all the time, not consistently. And I wanted to be able to check in from other people that I knew out in the field who had been doing it for a long time and that I respected. And so that's why I did it. And then like I said, the other part was there was something that seemed really interesting to me that I felt like there was a hole as far as my learning and practicing. And that's why I pursued it. So like recently I did some professional coaching certification, and that was what it was about. I wanted to learn more. I wanted to practice it with people. I wanted to practice it in a really cool space. And that was it. That was it for me. I gotta tell you all from my experience, it's been pretty rare when I've been hired on a gig because I had a particular certification. That's just my experience. Your story may be different.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of opinions about the certification race. And, some people are for it, some people are not for it. But I think it's all about what you get out of it, right? Like what you were saying, just pursuing it to get it doesn't really add anything unless you can take it and run with it, right? It's like, I guess, the beginning of something.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is. I mean, even with any of the certifications that I have right now, it's still been an ongoing journey. I mean, I've been a CEC for uh, 8 or 9 years or so, and just being a part of that community and learning from the other coaches in that community and outside of that community. I mean, I still go to plenty conferences just to learn in other classes, and I spend my hard-earned green dollars so I can still learn stuff. Um, yeah.
Totally. Right. Matt, you said you had another question?
Yeah, one other one. Nicola had a question. How do you manage when there's a perception that Agile only means delivering faster, and there's almost a disregard for the culture and the way of working that it encourages?
Um, I don't know how well I manage that. So, I think ultimately what I have experienced is that it's something to experience. Um, uh, Folks will often come into Agile with that thought in mind, and I think pretty quickly you figure out, oh, that's not always true. And I often have the conversation about agility being more about learning faster, and being able to make decisions faster based upon what you learn. And that my hope always is that that gets experienced as a result of, actually doing it. But it's hard for me to get into the philosophical. I used to get into the philosophical stuff about, no, this is really agile. And it's like, let's just try it and see what you experience, and then talk about, what it means to you at that point in time, and where should we go from there. I know that's not a great answer, but
No, I mean, it speaks to, trying to infuse that culture of experimentation without being overt about it, because that's inherent in Agile and methodologies, right? Using those feedback loops and learning faster, as you say, right?
yeah.
So maybe it becomes like what I call DL Agile or Stealth Agile. People have lots of names for it, where it's kind of like you're giving them the knowledge underneath, what they think it's supposed to be.
Yeah. That's hilarious, by the way.
Yeah, I'll trademark that.
Awesome.
Okay. Let's see. Let's see, one of these other questions. What are 3 things potential employers looking to attract and retain Black Agilists need to be aware of?
I think one thing for me is that there's no monolithic Black. Turns out.
Oh no, the cover is blown.
Right. Secret's out. And so I think again, I am a big fan of people bringing their whole self to work, and being fulfilled as a result of that, and understanding that people's culture, it's an advantage. It's a thing to embrace and try to connect to a human being, and ask them what is it that brings them joy. What is it specific about being Black, perhaps, that that we should be aware of, and that could add to the fabric of this organization, and be happy in that. Be happy to embrace those kinds of things, and be open to correction. Be open to mistakes happening, I think, on both sides. I think we're all trying to fumble through humanity and working with each other and talking with each other and understanding each other, and mistakes are going to get made, but be open to the correction.
Mhm.
And then I think there is something, I wish this weren't always true, but there is something to the idea that there is comfort in knowing that there are other people who look like you, have similar cultures to you. There's comfort and safety in that. And until we get beyond that, recognize that, and that is an important part of building a strong community, a strong organization. And so work towards that. So I think that's the diversity portion of things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Can you perhaps share a few Black Agilists you know who are doing amazing things right now?
I can share a ton. So,
I know, but we can't be here all night. But
I know, right? And these are folks that I'm just fans of, right? So there's Devon Morris. He has a company called Bearded Eagle, and they do amazing stuff out in the world. I know over the past year they were doing free CSM classes for folks, and all types of things. He and his wife Lizzie is also Black, and one a person that I call a friend now, and we've been in similar circle. Her name is April Biggs, so fantastic, and another Lizette Zaman. These are just fantastic people who I think deserve like bigger showcase because they're doing amazing stuff. I know Lizette is really amazing in the QA world of Agile, and also with DEI and bringing out really awesome statements and bringing more awareness to women, Black women in particular in the space. And it's like, I sit and listen to her and I'm like, I learned something. And this is really cool. And April has a huge heart and has deep knowledge and working with teams and organizations, and is an amazing coach and is an amazing human being. So like you said, not enough time to go through an exhaustive list. That's 3.
Yeah.
But gosh, so many people out there doing really cool stuff.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I know we're a little over 7:30, but I wanted to give you an opportunity, if there's anything that, we didn't talk about or anything that you wanted to share with everyone to know about you or your experience.
Not so much about me or my experience. Y'all have heard enough of me for the past 45 minutes or so. I guess my hope, my thought is that I think it's just something to reiterate is find a mentor, and then help other people, and know that whatever path that you may be on, just kind of keep trying, and where that seems to stumble, reach out. What I'm really heartened by is that this community, Black folks in this and people of color in this space, it's getting a lot more attention, and I'm so thrilled about it because I can remember going to many, many conferences for many, many years, and I would be the only one walking into a room. And so I love the fact that I can sit in front of you all and see you all, and it makes my heart sing. So thank you all for being here.
Awesome. Thank you for joining us, Brandon. It's been wonderful. Thank you for sharing your story and all your experiences. Thank you, attendees, for providing a lot of great questions. It's really been great seeing all of you and having you be part of this experience. And, you know, I just wanted to share before we wrap that there are a lot of opportunities in Agile in Color if you want to get involved. You just go to agileincolor.org, whether you are looking for a mentor or coaching, or if you want to be a mentor or wants to help with any of our events. So there are lots of opportunities to get involved, pay it forward, you know, all the things that Brandon was talking about tonight. But again, thank you all for being here. Thank you again, Brandon, for sharing. And until the next episode, have a good night, everyone.